So often you hear the term family office and investing and also high net worth individuals. And what does that mean? I'll be honest with you, I don't really work in that space. I kind of edge against that space with one of my larger accounts. But the fiduciary in that account actually introduced me to Kiah Jordan, who has the Impact Family Office in Santa Barbara, and had a chance to chat a little bit and talk about what they do in managing high net worth family assets. So Kiah, thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me here.
So Impact Family Office, kind of give me a broad view. What does Impact Family Office do for its clients?
Yeah, so we are the multifamily office with no assets under management. And we work with families in various degrees of involvement. So on one side, it may be a client that we're involved in their daily life. I'm signing checks, we're in their bank accounts every day, over working with property managers and their attorneys and their CPAs and all the various individuals, professionals in their world. To other clients that we have more of a high level oversight. We're looking at big picture direction and less touch on a daily basis. It might be more monthly or quarterly engagements. And we're coordinating the professionals. So we're not an RIA, we don't manage money. We work with the investment advisors, we work with the CPAs, the attorneys, the insurance agents, the real estate brokers, all those people that are part of their life to make sure that there's alignment across their investments, spending, and philanthropy.
It seemed to me that we say I don't work with them, but that at the level you're doing with, you almost have to deal with the best of the best in each of those niches, at least the best of your ability that you control, to give the client the service, whether it be attorneys or accountants or RIAs, that you can't afford to give your clients average service to expect better than that.
No, exactly. That is a key part of what we do. When we're looking at how we're working with clients, it's an expertise, but we also need to know where we draw the line, because we are not aggregating the services in-house. We're not trying to be their law firm or their CPA who's filing tax returns. We want to work with the experts that they already have, that they bring into the relationship. Obviously, if there's ever a change, we help match, the expertise and the relationship for a new one if they need it. Sometimes they have a professional that retires. And then as the people deeply engaged in their life, we're looking for the alignment across those professionals and know when we draw the line and going, and now we call the CPA, and now we call the attorney, so that we're not overstepping those. But then we have the broad view of their world to say, hey, we should have a call with your CPA and your attorney on this one, because this is something that, everyone should be in the loop on. So we love it because it gives us a broad network of professionals to help match make with clients and glean, an incredible amount of experience as we're helping guide and work with clients.
As I've worked on this one larger trust or estate, I've realized that the more people involved, the key is the communication amongst the players, because everybody is an expert in their field. They're used to dominating and being in control, yet you can't make a legal decision without understanding the accounting implications, the real marketing implications, what the client wants, how the client feels. There has to be a collaboration. So how do you work at getting collaboration amongst people who are all very good in their field, yet it has to be collaborative rather than one individual?
Yeah, that's a great question. And my background is not legal. I work with a lot of attorneys. I have more of the finance, CPA or CFP, chartered financial consultant background. My master's is in entrepreneurship. So that business planning. One of my colleagues is a CPA by training. And those are just to elevate our capability of engagement. And then when we're looking at the client's life and saying, hey, the estate planning really has to align with your investment accounts, right? Or your investment accounts really have to align with the estate planning, because often the introduction is from the estate planning attorney, and they go, here's my estate plan. And they go, what does this do? Often. And I'll read through and I'll say, okay, here's what happens if you're gone. Now let's look at your life and figure if that's actually what's going to happen. And a lot of that time, as you know, hey, they didn't name those accounts correctly. They never added this asset to the estate. It's not in the trust. Those things that slip through the cracks. And so looking at what their goals are and the plan says and aligning it with the reality of their life, that's often a lot of work. And so our engagement as a family office is going, hey, you've just added another asset. Let's make sure it falls within the plan. So that requires that oversight and then the coordination of the different people in there.
It is challenging. I think at the end of the day, it's all easier except for the people part, right? Once you get people involved and the egos involved, because oftentimes the account will say, well, we can avoid taxes if we do this. And I'll say, well, yeah, you'll pay no taxes if you don't make any money. But if you make a lot of money, you're gonna have to pay some taxes somehow. There's no really avoiding that, I guess, unless you're the federal government. And so it's really finding a way to work within the plan to make everybody work. I think that's the challenge. And so now you are, I know, often kind of brought in midstream, meaning somebody's passed and set up that you will take over the estate as a family office, as opposed to working them while they are alive. What's the handoff look like? That must be interesting to family members, heirs, and such.
Yeah, I mean, my preference would always be that next gen family, those that are part of the trust, know who I am in advance, right? And sometimes there's some clients that have kind of introduced me as, oh, they're helping me with my planning and oversight, and they don't necessarily know that I'm going to be the trustee in charge of all of their inheritance. And there's a client decision, to be made in there. Each client makes that decision on how much they want to disclose. Initially, unless there's foreseen problems, I'd love to have more of a relationship already with those I'm going to be interacting with after the client's gone. But I've had surprises. The first estate I administered was a surprise. I had met the person 6 months earlier. Fortunately, they had shared a lot about their life and what was going on. I took some copious notes. Their attorney was introducing me, hoping that I would engage as a family office for them because they knew they were overwhelmed. Sudden death 6 months later. I had never seen the assets. I didn't know that this person was being sued by their sibling for the administration of their mom's estate, sued by an in-law for the administration of her husband's estate because there was a family business. So it was a 2-foot jump into the deep end, and you really have to start with establishing trust with all the people in the picture, right? There's the who are you, why are you here, are you competent, how do we trust you, and really just working through that, create trust. And I like to see, we're working at the speed of trust, right? If you go too fast, no one's going to trust you because they don't know you. If you go too slow, there's a lot of frustration. So we're working at a pace that follows the estate plan, but is sensitive to those that are involved. And I always tell the beneficiaries, particularly if it's a surprise that I'm involved and it's a surprise passing, hey, there's a lot of emotions that are going to be going on here. You might not even know which ones you're going to experience. I've got a lot of grace in how you communicate with me. If you come yelling at me one day, I don't suddenly label you as the person that's always going to yell at me. I understand your mourning. That manifests differently. There are stages in this process, and we'll get through it together. So I'd love to be, not a surprise player in their lives. But I don't have timing when there's a sudden passing. I've had the plane crash. I've had the other things that are suddenly gone, the heart failures, and you wish that person was around for another 30, 40 years, but things happen, right? And that's where I'm hoping we're here to provide some peace of mind in that process.
I've been working on this one larger estate where he had two partners, and they're both so mad that he passed. It was a sudden passing of a younger man, and they're so mad at him. And I have to remind them several times, look, he's gone, and I didn't do it. Like, the attorney brought me in to help you or help the estate. I had anything to do with it. I never met him. He seemed like a nice guy. I'm sorry that he's gone, but my job is to clean up the mess here and get us going. And I think that sometimes people don't spend the time it takes to grieve emotionally. I know personally, my father was a younger man, and I really didn't. I was busy, and those emotions still are with me. And when I was older, my mother passing, I had more time to grieve and go through that. So in those cases, it's more difficult. From a business part, I think, because obviously a lot of your business, I'm sure, comes from other professionals, right? It's not just the consumer comes to you, but it's an attorney or an accountant or an investment advisor. And I find fascinating about your industry that of all the businesses I know, and I know a lot of being a real estate agent, you come across other businesses, you're the one industry where there's not nearly enough of you. And that gap is growing like every day. Like, I've been saying this now for 2 or 3 years, and it's even more. I'll call fiduciaries in LA for smaller estates, and they're too busy. They're not taking the cases. They're busy. Call me back in December. There's not many professional services that's the case. Where do you see the future of your industry?
I hope there is a more cohesive future in the industry. I'm 41. I'll be around a long time. You know, I'm in that actually a unique space of going, okay, I have enough experience and competency to meet the need, and I'm also going to be around a long time.
Yeah.
That's kind of a prime point right now.
And to your point, almost all the people I know in your space are 20 years older than you. I mean,
yes.
I didn't really think about it till just you said this, but really, I think every fiduciary I've worked with is got at least 15 years on you.
Yeah, and so I see that as there's a gap to fill, right? And there's a need. And so my vision for my company is growing as a team of people that can serve in this capacity. I have another colleague who's a licensed professional fiduciary. I plan to have many more, and to be able to support each other like a team. Think about it like a law firm, right? Where you have individual clients, but you have a supportive structure to work together and support each other in that. Across the country, every state is different. There are lots of independent trustees in Texas, but there's no license for it. There are no independent trustees in Tennessee, and they don't exist. You've got an executor because the will isn't really necessary. So each state is different, and the organization that I'm a part of, the Independent Trustee Alliance, is trying to create some standard across the country in terms of expectations of the professionals. I think at its early stage of the CFP, when they were trying to say, hey, how are financial planners, providing us a cohesive, broad service offering? And so I think the industry is incredibly necessary, particularly in California, where it's a trust-driven state. When people realize that, hey, your death certificate and your will are filed in public record, they go, wait, what? And so to have a trust to provide the anonymity and the speed in some cases of pursuing what it is you want to happen to your assets is really important. And there's turnover at the corporate trust company level. You may love this trust officer, doesn't mean they'll be there. They have no personal responsibility. Now, there are some that they will do the job well. I don't want to bash on that, but it's different to have an individual who's capable, competent, and this is what they do as their profession. And rather than choosing a family or a friend who might be the same age as you, or, as we discussed, disruptive of the family harmony and relationships, not because they're not competent, but because they might not have time. They might have their own professional pursuits that take away from the ability to give the attention. And it is not an insult to say, son or daughter, you are not my trustee. It's, I'm relieving you of this duty in order to have this administration done in a way that keeps the family harmony and passes things on as I wish. And so I have many clients that articulate that goal, even though they have children, next gen, who are RIAs, who are attorneys, who are very capable, competent people, but they're looking for that impartial professional who knows what they're doing in order to follow through with their wishes. And sometimes those wishes might not always align with what the beneficiary had hoped for, but it's someone that's duty is to the trust and following through, both defending it and following through with what it calls. So there's going to be a strong need for this and continue to be. I hope more people step up to do it.
Well, and certainly more people who are interested should consider reaching out to you, particularly if they're in the Santa Barbara area. Geographically, where do you cover? Do you stay in Santa Barbara? Do you look to branch out? Where are you geographically?
We kind of cover the whole Central Coast. I mean, even down through LA. So I have 3 businesses that are based out of LA, South LA, that are in trust that I'm the trustee of and corporate officer, up through the Central Valley, up almost to Stockton, and then north up into the Bay Area as well. I do have some clients in other states. When someone comes and says, hey, can you be the trustee for my trust, with properties in other states, or their residents in other states, it really depends on the trust, and looking at what the specifics of the trust are. But the need and the demand is well beyond California. And so we do serve some clients in New York, Colorado, Texas, other areas as well.
Fantastic. Well, it's impactfamilyoffice.com is the website, and Kiah Jordan is the founder and head honcho of the organization based in Santa Barbara, serving throughout California. Kiah, thank you so much for explaining to us what family offices are and how you handle the matters for these families that need these services. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thanks so much for having me, Bill.